Hey everyone. I know there's still quite a few people still arriving. I'm Valissa with Nuffnang. I'm the community manager here, and I'm super excited for this webinar on Google Analytics. Today is part of an ongoing series of monthly webinars that we're running on how to better improve your blog skills. I'm here with Ivan from Tweaky, who is a wonderful tech guy who's going to explain this mysterious world of Google Analytics for us. And if you're following along on Twitter today, the hashtag is blog analytics, and you can tweet at NuffnangAU, or you can say hello to Tweaky directly. Their Twitter handle is Tweaky Inc. INC. Really excited to have him here with us. Ivan's the head of marketing for Tweaky, which is the #1 WordPress developer marketplace for small customizations. So basically, they fix all of those cool things on your site that are driving you mad. We've partnered with them a couple times now. They're really wonderful guys. And Ivan's here today to help shed some light on the mysterious world of Google Analytics, but specifically for bloggers.
Cool, great. Hi everyone, super excited to be here. Thank you to Nuffnang for giving us the opportunity to do this, and thanks everyone for coming. We were really excited when Nuffnang pitched this idea to us about top Google Analytics for bloggers. Like Valissa said, my name's Ivan. I head up marketing at Tweaky. We're the #1 marketplace in the world to customize your website. And we do lots of Google Analytics. And we know that it's usually very overwhelming, really confusing. And so we basically wanted to put together a webinar to show you how to use Google Analytics, how to use the data to make a blog awesome, and yes, kick ass. Just a little disclaimer before we start. I usually get very fidgety whenever I put together slideshows, so there might be a few random pictures that you see throughout. I apologize if you find them distracting or annoying. Hopefully they're more entertaining or helpful. But let's get into it. Cool, so what's the problem with Google Analytics? Biggest issue with Google Analytics is that it's really confusing. It's hard to understand. There's so many numbers, and it almost feels like you need to be a genius to figure it out. Most people end up switching off. They have no idea what to do, and you kind of settle for this general sort of mentality that at least I have it installed. No idea how to use it, but at least it's there. Today we want to change all of that. Today I want to be able to show you some actionable things that you can do in Google Analytics to get insights to improve your blog. I always run by a certain mantra whenever I use Google Analytics, and if there's one thing I want you to remember at the end of today, it's this. Whenever you jump into Google Analytics, ask yourself if the metric or the number you're looking at can help you make a change or improve your blog. If you're looking at something that doesn't give you an insight to make a change, you're wasting your time. So whenever you're in Google Analytics, always think about what am I looking at, and can that help me make an improvement? So the first thing is, let's talk about understanding traffic. As a quick sort of overview, I'm going to run through 4 key things throughout this webinar. I'm going to run through understanding your traffic. I'm going to run through understanding your content. Understanding your visitors is the third thing. And the last thing is I'm going to run through some helpful features. So some things that you may not know about Google Analytics, but will probably help you get a richer experience. So most people start, and unfortunately they end here. They see the first page, they like the graph, it looks really cool, the pie charts look great, but we have no idea what the rest of the reports do, and you just kind of see a high-level number and assume, well, I guess the graph is going up, so that should be good. Unfortunately, that's not the case. In the first place I really want you to start with is in the all traffic section. Now, the all traffic section you can see on the left-hand side sits under sources when you look at traffic sources. And it's a really good place for you to get a high-level overview of where your website is at, what sort of channels are sending you the most amount of traffic, and where your most valuable readers are coming from. So whether that's people typing in your blog directly through their browser, maybe it's people finding you through Google. It could be people finding you through Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or any other sort of social channels. You want to get a really nice sort of overview of, okay, cool, this is the lay of the land, this is where my traffic is coming from. A question that we get very often is, what does t.co mean? If you look at number 3 on that screenshot, you'll see t.co. T.co basically means Twitter traffic. Twitter, whenever you put a URL into Twitter, it shortens it and it creates this t.co append. And so because of that, anything that says t.co, it's Twitter, just so that you know. So this is a really nice sort of starting point. You have a good sort of overview of where your traffic is at. But what I like to do in Google Analytics is I always go, let's dive deeper. And so the first place that we want to dive is we want to dive into your SEO traffic. So for those who don't know what SEO is, SEO basically means search engine optimization traffic. It basically refers to traffic that you get via search engines like Google when somebody's typing in a certain phrase and they find your blog post, for example, your blog, that is SEO traffic. So for example, if you were a cooking blog and you've got a whole lot of recipes and maybe you've got a page on dumpling recipes, somebody could be typing dumpling recipes into Google and they find you. And so within Google Analytics, they've got a great report, which is just on the left-hand side again. You'll see it under traffic sources, and there's a section called search and then organic, and that's where you want to go. And what this does is that it shows you all the different phrases that people are typing into search engines like Google and finding your blog. And so it's really insightful because then you start to see, okay, so I'm a cooking blog, for example, and people are coming to me via dumplings, dumpling recipes. Some people are putting dinner recipes. Some people are putting desserts. Some are putting breakfast, easy breakfast recipes. Or maybe people are doing specific searches, like maybe they're looking for a specific, an eggs Florentine recipe in the morning. I think you guys could tell that I'm a bit of a foodie because all the examples are food examples. But hopefully that gives you an idea of the sort of insight that you can get. A really good thing is the line graph as well, because you can start to see how you're trending. Generally, you want to see yourself getting more and more traffic coming in via search engines. And because all of you are bloggers, you're all producing great content. You know, you're writing new posts every day or every other day. You're constantly putting new content out there. And so when Google actually sees that content, it puts it into the index. And so when people type in phrases that are related to your content, you have a higher chance of actually being shown. And so you want to see that line graph move up and to the right. A great thing as well is that you can actually click on each of those individual search terms. So you'll see social media icons, you'll see themes for restaurants in that screenshot. If you clicked on those individual ones, you'll actually see how your traffic has grown across a period of time for that individual keyword. So if, for example, again, you're using the dumplings recipe example, and you're finding that you're not really growing, like it's kind of flatlining or it's going up and down, that gives you an indication that, okay, people are looking for dumpling recipes, but maybe I'm not producing enough content around dumpling recipes. So I should put new ones. Maybe, it's a pork and chive dumpling recipe. Maybe it's a steamed dumpling recipe or fried dumpling recipe, putting out different sorts of content to cater to that sort of need. A question we always get, though, is what the heck is not provided? Is Google Analytics holding out on me? Not provided, to give you an understanding, it's basically a change that Google rolled out a while ago, and it's around security and privacy. So if anybody's logged into their Google account, whether it's Gmail or whatever it may be, and in the same session, they make a Google search, any search word or phrase that they use will be shown as not provided for privacy reasons. So if I was in Gmail and then I was hungry and I want to find a roast chicken recipe, and I find your blog, even though I use the word roast chicken, it wouldn't show because of privacy reasons, because I'm logged in. So a lot of people kind of go, well, not provided is the biggest keyword that's in my report. How am I supposed to figure out what the keyword is then? Hello, advanced segments. Now, before I jump into how to figure out not provided, I want to talk about advanced segments. If you're in your Google Analytics account, you'll see up the top left-hand section, there's this thing called advanced segments. And it's a bit of a way to cut away data and isolate a specific group of people in your traffic. So, for example, you'll see on that screenshot, you can isolate, maybe you just want to see new visitors, or you want to see people who are returning visitors. At the same time, you can actually create your own custom segments. And that's when it becomes really interesting. Because in this example, you'll see that I'm creating a little advanced segment where I only want to see people who came to my website and they used the keyword not provided. So again, I'm isolating this piece of data from Google Analytics, and I want to see only people who type not provided. So you set the keyword there, you create it, and you kind of think of it as an analytics microscope. You kind of think of, okay, now I'm going to zoom into a particular area of my data. And this is what happens when you use that advanced segment not provided on your reports. So you'll see here, I'm using the segment, I'm in the landing pages example, and I'm able to see if somebody is typing in their own keywords, but they're logged into their Gmail account and they're still finding my page. I don't know what the keyword is, but at least I can see what sort of landing pages they're on. So I can infer, for example, that, oh, okay, a lot of people seem to like our social media icons post. A lot of people seem to like our how to make a sticky button post, or how to launch a new website. So I'm going to produce more content around that. So again, you're looking into your SEO report, seeing that there's a lot of people who type not provided. It seems confusing. So create an advanced segment, isolate it, and then use it throughout the rest of your reports. It's okay if it sounds a bit confusing now. I'll go through a few more examples later on, but this is just one way that you can get more insight into your SEO. So tracking social media activity. A lot of people are like, well, as bloggers, all of you are probably on Twitter, you're probably on Instagram, or maybe you're on Pinterest. And so you're across quite a few different social networks, and you're wondering, how do I track which social networks are sending me the most amount of traffic? Google Analytics have a really nice sort of report just on the left-hand side, and it's under social, and it's called Network Referrals. And from there, you can see a really nice overview of what are the different social networks that are sending you traffic, right? So there's Twitter, there's Facebook. For us, there's a place called Hacker News, which, don't worry, we're not hacking people's site. It's just a social network we're on. But let's click on Twitter. So if I were to click on Twitter, I can then see all the different posts that have gotten the most traffic from that network. And so what does that tell me? That tells me that there's certain types of content that work best on Twitter. So again, going back to the food blog example, Pinterest is a great way to visually distribute your content. So the likelihood is that you're going to find in this sort of report that your posts with the most amount of pictures that are distributed by Pinterest probably work the best. They probably get the most traffic from Pinterest because you've got a recipe post and you've got lots of pictures on how to do things. Whereas if you had a post where it's mostly text and very little pictures, you'll probably find that you won't get much traffic coming from Pinterest, but maybe you'll get something from Facebook or you'll get something from Twitter, for example. So it's really important to kind of get an understanding of what sort of content works best on what sort of social media network. And this sort of report helps you because you can choose the social network you want to dive into, and then you can see which posts do the best on that social network. There's another report in that section called landing pages, and it's almost doing it in the opposite way. So instead of starting with choosing a social network, you can start with choosing a specific blog post. So you can kind of go, cool, this blog post, really, really popular. I seem to get a lot of comments from it, but I wonder where all my social traffic is. And so, let's click on a specific blog post. And then you can dive straight in. You can kind of go, cool, it's coming from Facebook. There's a bit of Twitter action going on. There's some LinkedIn traffic coming in. And you've got insight into what social networks are most actively sending traffic to a specific blog post. You then take it a step further. You kind of go, well, what sort of trends can I spot? Do recipe posts do the best on Pinterest? If that's the case, then push more recipe posts onto Pinterest, right? Like if it doesn't do well on Facebook, then don't inundate your Facebook page fans with your recipe posts because they're not interested in that. Maybe they're more interested in something else that you've kind of produced on your blog, which is a video or something along those lines. So being able to understand what content caters to what social network is really valuable, and you can get that from this sort of report. So let's talk about email newsletter traffic. A lot of people kind of ask me, Ivan, how do I find out how much traffic I'm getting from my email newsletters in Google Analytics? Unfortunately, what most people don't know is Google Analytics doesn't actually track your email newsletter traffic. I know, shock and horror. Why doesn't it do this? The reason is because they actually just treat any newsletter link. So if you have an email newsletter that goes out and they click on it and end up on your blog, they treat that as direct traffic. The only way that you can actually change that is by using the Google URL Builder. So I've put up the URL Builder's address up there, and you can use that. And what that actually does is that it just adds a few tags at the end of any link to your website that you put on the newsletter, And that means that whenever somebody uses or clicks that link and goes to your website, it gets recorded as this is an email newsletter visitor. So you'll see there in the first section, you put in your URL. So for us, it's tweaky.com. I put the name or the source of the traffic, which is, so the campaign source is Tweaky newsletter, right? We're sending out a newsletter. The name of the medium, it's email, because we're sending it via email. And then the name of that specific campaign, you know, maybe it's Bloggers Rock or April 2013 newsletter. You click the submit button and it produces a URL. And so what you do is you copy that URL and you paste it into your MailChimp newsletter or whatever newsletter that you're sending out, so that when people actually arrive on your website and you go back again to that all traffic report, you'll see that you've got traffic that has the medium as email. So now you can refer to, oh, I wonder how effective my email newsletter was. So maybe you're sending out a special email newsletter and you've got like a specific competition. So you want to see, well, what are people who come to my website via the email newsletter into the competition? Are they doing different things? Now you have insight. But wait a minute, who is DF? So this is one of our reports, and so you'll see that everything else is kind of a Tweaky property, like those are our own emails. DF is actually a partner that we have. And so what we do with them, and what you guys can do as bloggers, is that whenever you're partnering maybe with a brand, for example, let's say, again, going back to the cooking thing, maybe you're partnering with ScanPan, and ScanPan are going to do a big email newsletter blast out for you. Instead of just giving them a link to the competition page, give them a link to the competition page with the tags included, so that whoever does come to your page, you can actually see that they came from that email newsletter. So whenever you're giving out links to people who are partners with you, who are sending out links on your behalf, tag them. Because if you can tag them, then you can then record them, and then you know where that traffic is coming from, as opposed to, wow, there was a lot of traffic that day, I have no idea where it came from. Instead, you've got this tag, and you can know exactly where it comes from. So that's kind of a really quick overview of how to jump into the traffic. Okay, we're going to do a quick pop quiz. One of the things that we really wanted to do was give away something to everyone who came. We know you guys are really busy. So we've got a quick pop quiz. And the question is, what is the most surprising word or phrase you can put into a Google search to find your blog? The winner for the most interesting phrase that Velissa will pick out wins a one-on-one Google Analytics expert from Tweaky. And so all you need to do is place your responses in the questions panel, and we'll announce the winner at the end of the webinar. And we'll get into the next section, which is understanding content. So now that you have a bit of an understanding of how to understand your traffic, let's think about what content does the best on your blog. And so a question that you're probably going to be asking is, what is the most engaging blog post that I have? And so the place that you want to go to is on the left-hand side, you'll see a section called content, and then you'll see a specific report called landing pages. Landing pages basically means the first page a person arrives on when they come to your blog, okay? So if, for example, I'm typing, again, maybe I'm typing a roast chicken recipe, and so the first thing that I find is the roast chicken page. That is my landing page. And so landing pages, you can see that you've got individual blog posts there. You've got the number of people who visited. You've also got that's how many pages on average did a person go to when they came to my website. Did they navigate to a second page, or did they go to a third page? What's the average? So for us, it's around 1.68 at the moment. So between 1 to 2. They spend around 1:46 on average, 83% are new visits, and there's a bounce rate, which is about 70%. So those are the sort of engagement. Again, you're probably saying to me, Ivan, but what about your mantra, right? Like, how am I supposed to make sense of any of that data? I mean, yeah, okay, so is 1:46 good? Is 1.67 average pages per visit good? Well, that's where visualizing your data can actually make a very big difference. If I were to just click, if you see where that arrow is, there's this little graph called the comparison graph display. If you click on that, what it then does is that it then takes your pages per visit, or maybe your average time on site, and it takes that and it benchmarks it against the average across your whole website. So for example, for the first entry, you'll see that it's our blog post on becoming profitable. You'll see that the number of pages per visit is about 5.25% higher than the average of the whole website as a whole. But when we look at things like the other posts, you'll see that some of them are minus. So these pages, however, have a lower pages per visit than the site's average. So that kind of indicates to me that if people were to come to that blog post and they land on that blog post, they're not very engaged. They don't seem to be as engaged as the rest of the content across my site. So what should I do about it? Maybe I need to look at potentially putting more links to other blog posts within the actual content itself. Maybe I need to have a better, more tightly related suggestions for other posts that people can read at the bottom of it. So just using a simple change in the way that the data is displayed gives you a good, simple metric of, are you performing better than average or poorer than average for individual blog posts? The other thing that you should really do is set goals. And the reason why is because goals really, really rock. Like, I cannot emphasize how important goals are. Some of you may already be doing them, but I want to run through it still the same. You'll find the goals section via the admin button up on the top right-hand corner, and then you click on goals, and you can create a goal. And there's a few goals that I think you guys should be creating. The first is setting goals based on time on site or pages per visit. So you can actually set a goal by saying, okay, on average, people spend about 1 minute 30 seconds on my website. So I want to be able to set a goal that whenever somebody spends maybe over 1 minute 45 seconds, they're probably much more engaged than the rest of the visitors to my website. So I want to make that a goal. So you can literally go, whenever somebody stays on my website for more than 1 minute and 45 seconds, that will be counted as one goal. So that's called an engaged visitor. You can do the same with email subscriptions as well. So one of the goals that we have on our Tweaky blog is that we actually put a goal for whenever anyone subscribes to our email newsletter, because that indicates to us that, hey, they're really engaged by our content, they liked it, and they signed up for our newsletter as a result. So that's when we use event tracking. And so you can put in a few different pieces of code. If you need help, Tweaky can help you get that set up. But we basically have this sort of trigger so that whenever somebody subscribes to our email newsletter, we know about it. So once I've got that goal set up, you'll see that I'm using advanced segments one more time. And in this advanced segment, I've kind of gone, okay, only show me data for people who have subscribed to the email newsletter and the value is greater than 0. So that means it's definitely got to be 1 or 2 because they've subscribed. And this is me using the advanced segment in my social traffics report, because now I'm looking at which social network is actually sending me email newsletter subscribers. So Facebook has sent me 10 today, which is great. So that tells me that Facebook is sending me really engaged users who are coming to my website and actually subscribing to my email newsletter. Twitter is doing pretty well, but Google Plus maybe not so much, and it's probably because we're not very active there. But again, using a combination of goals where you can set goals of going, is an engaged visitor or somebody subscribed to an email, and combining that with advanced segments where you only report on people who accomplish the goal, you can then look at the rest of your reports with this advanced segment in mind. But it gets better because there are custom reports. Now, hopefully, I'm not kind of bombarding you too much, but custom reports, as much as I love goals, I love custom reports even more. And the reason is, you can actually create your own reports. You know, sometimes you go to a Google Analytics report and you're like, that's great, but I really want to see this, and I really want to see this as well, but you can't see it. Custom reports allows you to create your own report by yourself. So you'll see in this example on the screenshot, I've created a quick report called Blog Post Performance Report. And I've basically gone, okay, I want to see the number of unique visitors that come to a blog post. I want to know how many pages per visit they have. What is the bounce rate? How long do they stay on my site on average? And then I've got the email subscription goals there. So the first one is how many email subscribers did you get? And what is the conversion rate of email subscribers to the total number of visits? In my dimensions, I created the landing page. So I want to see individual landing pages, and then I want to be able to see where they came from. And so the result of this is this. And so once again, you can kind of see, okay, top one, free marketing consultation with Tweaky. We had 108 people arrive on that page today. They spent about 1.5 pages per visit. But the thing is that we had a 5.26% conversion rate of email subscribers for that specific blog post. That is really useful information because over time you can begin to benchmark what is good content for me. Is good content users who stay on for more than a minute and a half? Is good content people who subscribe from an email newsletter? If you know what that benchmark is and you set a goal for it, you can then create a custom report so you can start seeing which blog posts are doing the best for you, which blog posts create the most engaged users, which blog posts give me the most email subscribers. And using a combination of all these different things gives you a great report that's so easy to understand, and you can quickly see how well you're doing. Fast report, conversion rates. Now you know what posts generate the most engagement. So now that we have a bit of an understanding about content, the next thing is just understanding your visitors. And so just going back to the advanced segments example that I gave before, there are a few default ones that are already there. And there's new visitors and returning visitors. There's even things like you could isolate just mobile traffic or tablet traffic. You know, people who come to your website and they're on a mobile device, or people who come to your website and they're on an iPad, for example. So this is how I would use the mobile traffic segment. So I've clicked on the mobile traffic and I only want to see mobile traffic. And I'm once again looking at my individual blog posts, and you can see that I'm using that comparison graph where I'm comparing each individual blog post to the site average, and I'm looking at it by pages per visit. So I'm looking at how does each individual blog post perform in terms of the number of pages a visitor visits compared to the site's average. And you can see, crap, it looks like most of our mobile website doesn't look very good, and so a lot of people don't actually navigate to more blog posts. That's insightful stuff because I'm isolating mobile traffic, I'm trying to understand what they're doing, and it's clear that many of them don't go to more than one page, and the reason is because it's too hard to get around. Maybe our navigation is really poor, maybe it's really hard reading experience, so they see one page and they're like, you know what, I've had enough of this, I don't want to keep looking at your blog. And so analytics in this example tells me, as you know, running the Tweaky blog, that hey guys, we need to kind of do some work on our mobile website, maybe make it more responsive, make it more optimized. You could also do measuring engagement by country. So what I did was I created an advanced segment for visitors from Australia. I also created an advanced segment for visitors from the US, and I compared the two. And so there's this report called the engagement report, which again you'll find on the left-hand side when you're looking at your audience, and it tells me what is the average visit duration for people from different countries. And there you go. You can see that US visitors seem to spend more time on our website than Australian visitors. So the questions for me from that sort of insight is telling me, well, what can I do to make Australian visitors more interested? And the other thing is, how can I grow my US audience? Because clearly a lot of Americans seem to like the Tweaky blog and they're reading a lot of stuff. And so what can I do to get more exposure? Maybe it's partnering with an influential blogger in America, for example. So it's all those sorts of insights that allow you to understand your visitors a bit better and go, what can I know about them and what can I do to give them a better experience? So we're on our last bit, and I know I've been talking for a little bit more, so we're going to finish up really soon. But the last thing I want to talk about is just some helpful features that you may not know about, but really, really rock when it comes to Google Analytics. One is intelligence events. Now, intelligence events are basically different alerts that you can create whenever something significant happens. So, for example, in this screenshot, you'll see that I have an alert name called Super Awesome Traffic Day. And that means when we've got a lot of people coming to the site. And so you'll see that my conditions are, if all traffic on my website exceeds, I think I put there like 100 million, I can actually get an automatic SMS that tells me, wow, something significant has happened. So in your sort of context, you can put it as, if your average, if the total amount of traffic to your website that day maybe dipped below 1,000 visitors and your average is only 1,000, it will send you an SMS to tell you, hey, you might want to be concerned because it seems like you're getting very little traffic today. That's a problem. Or, for example, you get a really big spike and then you want to be able to know about it because you're like, cool, you seem to be doing really, really well today. Why don't you figure out who's sending you a lot of traffic? Because maybe an influential blogger has blogged about your site and you want to be able to be notified so that you can quickly go back to them and say, hey, thanks so much for featuring me. That was really, really nice of you. And you can build a relationship that way. And sometimes the expedient alert or knowing what's happening on your website can make all the difference. The other thing as well is a dashboard. And so Google Analytics have a nice little dashboard feature that allows you to quickly put together some key metrics around how your site is doing right there and then. And instead of diving too deep, if you've maybe only got 5 minutes and you're like, well, I just want to see quickly how we're doing, you can basically take different reports and just put them into a graphical interface and put them onto a big dashboard, and you can kind of get a feel for, yeah, cool, that's how we're doing. There's even active visitors, so you can see how many people are on your site right now. The last thing is annotations. Sorry, it's not the last thing, it's the second last thing, is annotations. Annotations is a really good thing. So let's go back to that example of this really prominent blogger blogged about you, right? And so let's say ProBlogger covered you as their up-and-coming blogger of 2013, and you're like, yeah, great, that's really, really awesome. You get back to them, you're like, thank you so much for doing that. But then 2 months later, you come back and you're looking at your report and you're like, I cannot figure out why there's so much traffic. I know the reason, but I can't remember what it is. Annotations allows you to just double click on the graph and actually just write a small little note for yourself in the future. So you can kind of type, ProBlogger featured me, or maybe like I partnered with ScanPan this week, or we did this special promotion. It allows you to understand, hey, okay, this is what happened that day. So whenever you go back and you kind of want to remember, you just hover over it, and this annotation will come up and tell you what happened that day. And the last thing that I really want to, give you guys, I think this is a little piece of gold, and I'm not sure how many of you bloggers use it, but many of you will probably have a search bar in your blog. And so a lot of people who will come to your site may not want to actually scroll and navigate and try and find a specific blog post. So again, going back to the food thing, if I was on a food blog and I was just like, you know what, I really, really feel like, like finding some sort of roast recipe, or maybe I want a winter warmer sort of a lamb roast pot, and so a pot roast, sorry. So what I would do is I'll type in the search bar, lamb pot roast recipe. And so what Google Analytics can do is it can actually record every single search that a person puts in that search bar. And that's a great place for you to start finding new blog topics. Because if somebody is typing a lamb pot roast recipe and you've only got a lamb shanks recipe, or you've got like a lamb rack recipe, but you haven't actually got a lamb pot roast recipe, and you're finding a lot of people are looking for that, but you don't have it, that should be a signal to you to say, I need to go and create a lamb pot roast recipe. It's pretty straightforward. This example is obviously not a food blog. It's some sort of e-commerce site for electronics, but you can see that a lot of people on their site are looking for an iPod or a Zumba or a heater. So for them, they know we need to create more or bring in more of these products because people are looking for them. And so I've talked a lot. I know it's been really quick. I know I've covered a lot of different things, but I wanted to give you guys as much information as possible so that you guys can at least get a quick start. My one piece of advice to you is that stop waiting for things to happen. Go out and make them happen. I know all of you Nuffnang bloggers are very proactive. Hopefully this Google Analytics talk helped give you a quick foundation into what's required. And if there's anything that we can ever do, please don't hesitate to reach out. At Tweaky, we love helping bloggers. We love helping small businesses, helping you guys succeed online. So yeah, again, my name's Ivan. I'm the head of marketing. You can hit me up on Twitter, drop me an email. You know where to find us. If you need a one-on-one training session, we do have that. Otherwise, please come and visit our tweaky.com/services marketplace. We've got a whole host of marketing experts from around the world who can help you with a whole lot of different things. And we're always around. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
That was really helpful. The tweets are going wild here. It's kind of fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'd like to do a little bit of Q&A here. So if you've got questions for Ivan, which I'm sure you all do, go ahead and add those in either in the control panel in the questions section, or you can tweet those in using the hashtag #bloganalytics. Ivan, just to start, the couple questions we had, someone was asking if there's a way to group by topic or keywords when you're looking at search terms. In context that they do a post a day on a certain theme.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely a way that you can do that. If you're in your traffic sources report and you've got that organic search report coming up, you'll see that there's a small search bar that allows you to filter content. And so what you want to do is that you want to just type in all the keywords. So for example, if you're producing a lot of content daily on topic A, for example, in that search bar, you can actually just type topic A, and then you'll be able to filter out all the keywords that have it. So if I'm, let's say, I write about fashion, and I'm doing a daily shoe post about sneakers, then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be on that organic search report, and I'm going to be in the search bar typing sneakers, and it'll show me any sort of keyword that comes up through Google that comes to my site that has the word sneakers on it.
Awesome, thank you. We had actually a couple people asking. You mentioned setting up alerts for when certain events happen. Is it possible to use Google Analytics with RSS feed subscriptions?
I think you definitely can. I probably need to go and play around, but I'm very sure what you would probably do is that you would set a goal for an RSS subscription. So again, remember how I was talking about the goals for email newsletters or for somebody spend a certain amount of time on your site? You can set a goal for when somebody subscribes to your RSS feed. You may need a little bit of technical help with that, so let us know if we can help with it. But once you set up that goal, you can then put together an alert that says every time this goal happens, send me an SMS, or at least whenever more than 10 people subscribe in a day, send me an SMS.
Cool, all right. Guido was asking if bounce rate is important, and if so, what sort of things you should be looking at with that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, great question. Bounce rates, always something that a lot of people ask for. Little plug for the Nuffnang blog. I put together a guest post on the Nuffnang blog recently about why you shouldn't waste time on bounce rates. Having said that, bounce rates do give you an indication of certain elements. So that you understand, bounce rates basically mean that a person has come to one page of your website and they left. They didn't go to a second page, they only just went to one page. Now, bounce rate isn't always a bad thing because if, for example, you're running a competition and you've got a landing page and a form, the likelihood is somebody's going to come in, fill up that form, and they're going to go because that's it. If, for example, it's a very active reader who's coming to your website via RSS feed, the likelihood is that they've read all your posts already. So if they come to your website and they have a high bounce rate from the RSS feed, that's not a problem because they already know. It's not a bad indication. You probably want to use bounce rates when looking at new visitors, so brand new visitors who haven't come to your site before. And like I said about advanced segments, go into your advanced segments. There's a default segment called new visitors. Click on that and start looking at what the bounce rate is across your site for that. Because if you've got new visitors who've never been to your site before and they only go to one page, that's probably a concern because you want them to come to at least 2 or 3 pages to at least engage with you more.
Great. So on the topic of bounce rates, what other basic goals do you think bloggers should be looking for? I mean, are there set things for time on site, pages per visit? What sort of things should they be aiming for?
Sure. No, really good question. Get asked all the time. I hate to give a cop-out answer, which is it all depends. But let's just kind of give you some rough sort of benchmarks. So if we're talking about an email subscription, you're looking at a benchmark of maybe 2 to 3% is great. If you're getting an email subscription rate of 2 to 3% on your blog post, that's really, really good. If we're talking about the number of pages per visit or the amount of time that you're spending on the page, you want to at least have more than one page per visit. So try, especially with a blog, because you guys are producing content. You guys are all about content. You're all about producing engaging stuff that people want to read. So you want to make sure that they're going to at least 2 or 3 pages. So you want to have, anywhere above two as your average pages per visit. In terms of time on site, I would probably say look at what your current site average is. So look at what your average is and add an extra amount of time, maybe an extra 10 seconds or so. Because if you know what the average is, if people spend on average a minute 30 seconds, put something like maybe 2 minutes or maybe a minute 50 or a minute 45 and kind of put that because you know that those people are already performing above average for you and those are highly valuable readers.
Awesome. A couple other questions. I know we're running out of time here.
That's cool.
Um, someone's asking about Google Alerts. Is it possible to create something within Google Analytics, use Google Alerts for someone talking about
Uh,
your blog?
Yeah, okay. So the closest thing that you can get, so for those who don't know what Google Alerts are, it's for all the narcissists in us, myself included. I have a little Google alert that if anything on the internet comes up saying Ivan Lim, I get an email telling me, oh, this new piece of content came out and it said Ivan Lim. So you can kind of do the same thing we do with Tweaky. Like if anybody ever writes about Tweaky online, and if Google sees it, they'll send us an email saying this person talked about Tweaky. So you can do the same thing for your blog. If anybody mentions your blog name or your personal name, you can do that. Within Google Analytics, that's a little bit harder. The reason is that it's not synced as simply. The best way that it actually happens is they have a feature within the social reports that I was showing you before in the beginning of the presentation when I showed you, Facebook and Twitter traffic. There is a section called trackbacks. Trackbacks is very, very similar to the WordPress feature that you'll see if you're using WordPress. There's a section called trackbacks. Whenever anybody links back to a specific blog post, the same thing happens in Google Analytics for trackbacks. So you can definitely use that as well. Jump into there, see who's been talking about you and linking back to you.
Awesome. All right. We are a bit over on time, so thank you everyone for putting your questions in. Would like to announce the winner. You guys have the most amazing assortment of search terms that are coming into your blogs. They are hilarious. I encourage you all to spend some more time looking at these because I'm certainly enjoying them. But we had to choose someone to win, and so I'd like to pick Lydia Lee. Her search term, I'm not even sure that I can pronounce, but it's torchless panic jetpack. Lydia, I don't know what you're writing about that gets you traffic from that search term, but hey, I think it's great. So congratulations. We'll be in touch via email to let you know the details of your prize. Ivan, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a really insightful session. The tweets are really positive. Everyone's loving having you. For anyone who's missed the first part of this session, we are recording today, and we'll have a replay that will be going around the next few days. So you haven't missed anything, and you can go back and review all of Ivan's information.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for having me. It was really, really fun. Good luck to everybody in your blogging adventures. If you want any other sort of helpful advice around online marketing or improving your blog, do come and follow us on Twitter, visit our blog, and you've got my email there, so feel free to hit me up. Happy to chat and help out. Thank you so much for having us, Melissa. We'd love to do it again.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.